Welcome back, everyone. Today, I want to talk about the brand new amplifiers from LAIv. Now, recently I reviewed the LAIv Harmony Micro DAC, and I have fallen in love with this little thing. It's still in the system making beautiful music. If you missed that review, be sure to check it out. It's an R2R DAC under $1,000 using the same R2R architecture as the more expensive Harmony. I talk about that DAC in that review, but it's still in the system. But today, I want to talk about a complete system from LAIv. Now, over the last year or so, they've been teasing that these were coming, right? And they told us it was going to be coming right around now. And on the website, they show they're shipping in just about 2 weeks. Now, I've had them here for a couple of weeks listening to them, comparing them to other separates, and I'm ready to talk about these amps. Now, first of all, let's talk about what these amps are. They are monoblock amps, but they are a small form factor, and LAIv has done it again in the design department. I think these look really, really cool. From the minimalistic buttons, the display can be off or on. It can display the name LAIv, or it can show you a VU meter of sorts. It's not the typical VU meters, but it has a display that shows your music signal bouncing up and down. And they are really beautiful to look at. They're compact and they're pretty much lightweight. These are not heavy, big boxes. They do have the typical bronzy gold trim that the black Harmony products have, because they're meant to be all in the same family, to all have the same aesthetic. So they're pretty beautiful amps, actually. They come in silver and black. Now, these are GanM amps. These are gallium nitride amps, and these are using what LAIv says is the latest technology. And I've heard quite a few GAN amps over the last year. So I want to talk about how these are a little bit different from what I've heard before. So 200 watts per channel, they're saying, into 8 ohms. That's all they're saying, 200 watts per channel into 8 ohms, and they do seem very, very powerful and effortless. Now, I'm pairing these with the LAIv headphone amplifier / preamplifier. This is the HPA, and it doubles as a really nice headphone amp and a preamp for a stereo system. So I am using this solely as a preamplifier because it mates really well with the company's amplifiers. They were voiced to be together, so to speak. So the HPA is a beautiful slim design preamp, and it has that gold bronzy dial up top to change the volume. Looks wise, it carries the same looks as all of the other LAIv products, which is very, very cool. I love their design. I love the small footprint, and so far everything I've reviewed from LAIv has been exceptional. So before these arrived, I was listening to, of course, my reference, which is a Nagra preamp and a Nagra amp. I also have here a set of separates from Modrite Instruments. They're KWA 99 monoblocks, which are voiced or biased into Class A up to 30 watts each, I believe, and their LS99 preamp, which is an all-2 preamp. I've had that on hand listening to it. I've had the Luxman 509Z that I just reviewed, and these LAIv GAN amps. GanM is what they're called. So what do these sound like? As usual, LAIv has beautiful packaging, a beautiful box they ship in. They don't skimp on the packaging, and it's interesting because there's a lot of high-end companies where you spend $20, $30, even $40,000, and the packaging is kind of bare bones. There's nothing special about it. With LAIv, they want you to feel that pride of ownership. And that's what I feel every time I open the box from LAIv. I'm like, man, whoever buys these are going to be feeling really good about them when they open them, because there's a lot of attention paid to the packaging here. Beautiful, beautiful as always. Now, they do come with little discs because there are spiked feet on the bottom of each amp. So if you don't want to scratch up your surface, put these little feet first, and they give you kind of a guide in the box. You set this cardboard guide up, you put the feet there, you lift it up, and it will perfectly fit the amplifier. Now I went out in my yard, took some wood, and I made some amp stands for these, and I think they look pretty cool. Instead of using those discs, I just put them on the wooden amp stands, and they look pretty cool. So I set them up, I hooked everything up, and the first speakers I tried them with were the Pure Audio Project Duet 15 horns that I recently reviewed. Speaker duties here are shared between the Pure Audio Project Duet 15 horns now and the Icon 12s from Audio. But when I first put them in, I did let them run in for 48 hours just to be sure the sound didn't change. After that 48 hours, I sat down to listen, and I had the Pure Audio projects in, and I started queuing up some music. So I queued up a Live at Warner Brothers Studios song from Fleetwood Mac, Landslide. And I love this version of the track. It's live, it's kind of intimate. It kind of makes you feel like you're there in the room as the band is singing. And I've heard this on other systems, and it sounds pretty good. Sometimes it can sound thin and lacking. Other times it can sound kind of just to have a beautiful vibe about it. I turned on the system with the Pure Audio Project Duet 15s and the GanM amps and the HPA preamp, and again, the Nagra streamer and the LAIv Harmony micro DAC. What I heard was a very smooth-bodied sound, full-bodied sound. There was absolutely zero digital nature to this song with the Harmony amps. And what I feel is that these are, after listening to them for the last couple of weeks every day, they kind of give off a smooth tube vibe to me. Now, I recently reviewed those Orchard Audio Star Crimson monos that were Class D GAN amps, more powerful at 500 watts per channel, and those were pretty smooth and silky. Now the GAN amps are smooth and silky, the harmonies I should say, but there's a little glow about them. When the voices come out, there's like a little bit of glow around them, which reminds me of, say, a tube, an EL34 tube, right? It reminds me a little bit of that. And that was the difference I was hearing between these and the Star Crimsons. The Star Crimson were maybe more impactful and punchy. These were a little bit more easygoing, free-flowing, organic. These are more soul-stirring, the harmonies. The Star Crimsons were more about that drive, body, still being smooth, but impact. So I didn't know if it was just the song that was producing this beautiful kind of sound that was smooth into the room, so I switched it up to something with some bass. I put on My Cosmos Is Mine from Depeche Mode off their last Memento Mori album, and that starts out with some big drum hits. You can hear all these songs on my title playlist at HiFi Huff. The song has these drums that kick out, and then you hear all these sound effects from the synths, and with some systems, they can be popping out into the room in a three-dimensional space. With the Harmony GanM amps, again, I was hearing a powerful sound this time because it's kind of a big-sounding track. And those drums were just as powerful as I remembered from the Star Crimsons. And once the instruments started coming in, those synths, I was hearing that holographic sound stage. And the more I listened to this setup, I realized that this now was the finest I've heard the Pure Audio Project Duet 15s. I've tried them with a Luxman 509Z. I tried them with my Nagra setup. I've tried them with the Modrite setup. I've tried them with the Star Crimson setups, the mono amps. This right here was a perfect synergy with the Duet 15s. If you own Duet 15s, take a look at the GanM Harmony amps and the preamp. I think the preamp is giving it that sound because I did change the preamp out and the sound changed to a much more hard-hitting sound and faster sound. I think with the Harmony, with the HPA and the GanM amps, the Harmony amps, there's a perfect synergy going on. And there seems to be a perfect synergy with the Pure Audio Project Duet 15s. I kept listening to that Depeche Mode album and the sounds were popping out in a 3D space, but they were kind of coming out in a mellow way. They weren't sharp or incisive. It was more, again, soulful, but there was three dimensions going on here. And the imaging was rock solid. When Dave Gahan starts singing, his voice comes dead center out of the middle. And he sounds like he's about even with the speakers, right? Some amps will project his voice out a little into the room. Here, his voice was silky smooth, but I still heard the texture in his voice. And there were some holographic imaging going on. It was quite nice. I then moved it up to some female vocals. Now, I love the Eva Cassidy album, Songbird. The first song, I believe it's the first song. I own the vinyl, but I was streaming from Tidal here, or maybe it was Spotify. Either way, this is a beautiful sounding album. I threw on Fields of Gold, which is my favorite track on this album, a remake of a Sting song. And her voice is just so beautiful. She passed at such an early age. It's a shame. I wondered where she'd be today if she was still going. But this song has emotion. This song touches your heart. And on this system with the Pure Audio Project Duet 15 horns and the GanM Harmony amps, it was very sweet, soulful. This time her voice was coming out a little bit into the room, and the acoustic guitar was to the left a little bit, and you heard every string, not with a dryness or a fast clarity type of sound, but each string had a little body to it, and I love, love, love that. Now, when I had the Luxman on the Pure Audio Project Duet 15s, there was a little bit of sizzle in the top end. That sizzle was gone with the LAIv Harmony setup. Now, again, I'm using the micro DAC, which kind of has a warmish glow sound about it. It's not a lean, incisive, dry DAC. It's not one that's going to throw details out at you like a Chord Dave. This one has a little bit of warmth to it. So I think this was all synergizing in a way to make these Pure Audio Project Duet 15 sound amazing. So I wanted to switch it up. I put in my Icon 12s from Norway, from U Audio, and these speakers are just incredible. I've talked about these a lot in the past. I won't rehash, but when I hooked up the Harmony system to the Icon 12s, I felt it was a little bit of a mismatch. They still sounded beautiful, but there was a little bit too much warmth because these are kind of warm speakers. And I think that the Harmony GanM and the HP preamp, or the headphone / amp / preamp, it's kind of also has a little bit of a warm glow going on. So when you mix two warm things together, it's kind of a mismatch. You don't want to put a bright amp with a bright pair of speakers, and you really don't want to put warm leaning amps with a warm leaning speaker. It still sounded really, really nice and beautiful, but the Icons like a little more energy in the treble and a little more energy in the mids to really sound as amazing as they can sound. So that was a little bit of a mismatch. I then put in the Buchard E50s that I still have here. Now this is Buchard's flagship bookshelf speaker. It's doing really well for them. I went to their website, and you pre-order them, they're not shipping till August, so they're a few months out. These are harder to drive. These are 85 dB efficient, right? But Buchard says they need current, right? And not all amps are high current. When I ran them with the Luxman amp, they sounded beautiful because Luxman pushes out high current. So I hooked them up to the GanM Harmony setup, and that little bit of warmth and glow really translated beautifully to the E50s. I put on a song called Horses at Night from Strand of Oaks. I love this band, but I really love this one album called In Heaven. And Horses at Night is on this track. And the recording quality of this is right up my alley. It's full-bodied but detailed. You hear the sparkle. You hear this in every song. Some songs come out in a three-dimensional way. Some songs have that beautiful swell where it builds up. Overall, an excellent album, and I highly recommend giving it a listen. But on the Buchards, Horses at Night became this real live, in-person, intimate event. I was hearing all the spatial cues. The vocals were coming out into the room how I like it. The instruments were all placed in the sound stage. This was another really, really nice match. The Harmony was powering these without a problem. But remember, they're putting out 200 watts per channel. This is a lot of power. When I was a kid, it was considered 100 watts per channel was massive. And now we hear amps that are 500 watts per channel, 1,000 watts per channel. But 200 watts per channel is crazy, and I was barely cracking a few watts, and that's something I want to talk about here with these. Now, there's a front display, and let's just move in closer because I want to talk to you about how to use the menu. It's a little bit tricky, and we'll show you the back as well. So let's move in closer. I'm going to take a closer look. On my little screen on my camera here, it looks dark, so I apologize for that. These are kind of hard to get a good shot of in the daytime. I should have filmed this part at night. So hopefully you can see the display. Now up top here, I want to show you, there's an L and an R. On the back, there's a switch where you assign if you want this to be the left or right amplifier. So on the left amp, you see the L is lit up. Now on the front, it defaults to this VU meter type of display. Now, one thing in my room, the reflections in my room, this thing barely moves because I'm using sensitive speakers that are not hard to drive. So it barely moves, but there's a setting you can do. To get to the menu, you hold it down like so, and you let go when you see this countdown go on. And then you're in the menu. So right now I have, you can set the range, right, for your amplifier or your speaker sensitivity. And LAIv told me for my situation, if you're using sensitive speakers, to set it to 0 to 50 watts. There's other settings there as well. You can also change the display, turn it off or on. So let's go back to the menu. There's dim. You can set it to dim it after so many minutes. You can keep the display off. There's a reset and the brightness, and that's about it. It's very, very easy to control. Sorry about the flicker. That's from the camera, not the amps that caused that. You see that in other videos. So beautiful looking right here. I did make some amp stands out of some wood I had. I cut, sanded, stained, and put a protective coating on it, and it fits them perfectly. Nothing fancy, but I kind of like the vibe. Let's turn the amp around and see the back. All right, so let's look at the back. Now, this only has an XLR input. There's no RCA input, so you will need an XLR cable or an XLR adapter. It's the same way with the LAIv micro DAC. It's XLR only. That's fine. I'm using XLRs anyway, but some of you might use RCAs. You're going to have to think about that. Speaker outputs right here, very high quality, very solid, nothing loosey-goosey here. This is where the chassis is grounded, and your power input, and you have a couple of trigger outputs here. Very, very simple design. So here's another thing. This is really meant to be paired with the full-size Harmony DAC. On top of the HP headphone amplifier, there's little notches for the feet of the full-size Harmony. And the full-size Harmony DAC has a little bit more of a lit-up sound than the micro DAC. So I believe the full-size Harmony would sound even sweeter and give a little bit more of that treble sparkle that some may look for. The micro DAC is a little bit warmer in my experience. Again, this is my experience in my room. I just tell you guys what I hear. So I went back to those Pure Audio Project Duet 15 horns, which you see behind me, by the way. And I really love the way the LAIv gear synergized with these. And I believe at the Expona show recently, LAIv was there and they were displaying this setup with Pure Audio Project Duet 15s, the Vox Active version, I believe. But the horn version, they have a similar vibe. The horns are just a little more alive in the human voice and instruments such as horns and piano. So with the Duet 15s back in place, I threw on a song by Enigma called The Omega Point. Now this song has slow moments, big dynamic moments, big drums, spatial sound effects. It can be very 3D in the right system. I put it on and I was hearing those drums kick with a lot of impact because this setup was awakening those bass drivers in the Duet 15s. The Luxman, for example, it was a little more lit up in the treble, as I said, and a little bit leaner in the bass. That was not the perfect match with the Duet 15s, though that amp was almost a perfect match with the Icons. Synergy is a real thing, guys. Finding the right components to go together goes a long way in creating the sound that you love. So going back to this song, there was a lot of bass energy coming out, and these are open baffle, but these woofers are made for open baffle speakers. It's not the same kind of chest pump impact you get from a big box speaker. It's a natural bass, and this bass was swelling throughout the room. And I walked out and walked in, and as I was walking in, I just was feeling the energy. This is a great song to demo on your system because it has soft moments, it has impactful moments. So the Omega Point from Enigma was sounding amazing. So what I conclude at the end of the day is it's all about synergy. It's all about the sound you like. These GAN Harmony M amps are powerhouse amps. They sound fantastic. They look beautiful. They're not heavy. They're silent as a mouse. There's no noise coming from any of this gear. So you're not going to get a transformer buzz from a big old transformer, right? They're just dead silent. Class D GAN technology has come a long, long way. Every amp I've heard lately with GAN technology has something really positive about it, but they all sound a little bit different. I can't say which my favorite has been because I've enjoyed them all. But this system, if you want to build a really nice system that has humanity, glow, organic sound, a little bit of a tube vibe, take a look at the GanM amps from LAIv Audio. Take a look at that micro DAC. Take a look at the HPA headphone amp and preamp. Now, I did not test the HPA with a set of headphones because I'm not really doing headphones here anymore. That's not my thing. My interest lies in 2-channel stereo, and that's what I want to talk about here. I want to thank LAIv for sending these to me for review. It's been a beautiful experience. They are beautiful amplifiers. I don't see them having an issue driving just about any speaker out there. And when they do, they'll do it with a little bit of that glow and beauty, right? Now, don't get me wrong. These are not soft. These are not bloated in any way. These are not veiled. They're not going to make your speakers sound like there's a sheet over them. They are still bringing out that detail, and you hear a lot of the micro details as well. Listen close and you'll hear these little sounds emerging. These are beautiful amps. And I'll leave you with this, and I'll say this because I'm going to be honest. While evaluating these, I kept switching out to different systems. I kept switching to my Nagra HD Pre and Classic amp using the same streamer and DAC. I would then switch out to the Modrite separate stack. They all are beautiful in their own way. They all do their own thing, and they all vary wildly in price, with the Nagra being an insane, absurd price. There were things I liked about the LAIv more than I liked about the Nagra setup. But of course, there's things I like about the Nagra more than the LAIv. What I'm saying is, I enjoyed music just as much with the LAIv as I do with the much more expensive Nagra. It's not about money. It's about synergy and the sound that you look for and love. So there you go. That was my thoughts on the GanM amps. They are knockouts. They are fantastic. They look beautiful and sound beautiful. If you like this video, thumbs up, subscribe, comment, share. I'm going to be doing 2 more videos this week. I'm going to try to anyway. I have a lot of stuff to get to, so stay tuned and hit that notification bell. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one.